we've had an investment of up to 5.3 billion US dollars.
Yeah.
And out of that, 29% has gone to Ugandan companies.
So a definite increase.
That is quite
Exploration.
significant.
Yeah.
If you try to look around the region and the other countries where they started from, and the level of capacity development.
Hello everyone, my name is Jill Whitehouse Munyes. I'm the Team Leader Membership Services at the Uganda Chamber of Energy and Minerals, and welcome to our podcast today. On today's session, we have none other than Miss Betty Namubiru, who's the Manager National Content at the Petroleum Authority of Uganda. Very warm welcome, Betty. How are you doing?
Thank you very much. I'm really doing fine, and I'm glad to be here this morning.
Maybe for our people who do not know you yet, please introduce themselves. Who are you? What do you like doing? What's good about you? Tell us.
Thank you very much. My name, as introduced, is Betty Namubiru. I work with the Petroleum Authority of Uganda as a manager national content monitoring. My passion is really to see as many Ugandans participate in the oil and gas sector in Uganda. There's been a lot that has been achieved, but we believe there's still more that we can go for, given that the sector is progressing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. So I know Uganda has a national content policy,
Sure.
and it's being implemented across various sectors. But for today, let's focus on the oil and gas sector. So how effective do you think it is when it comes to procurement, employment, and capacity building for the locals?
Thank you for that question. Well, indeed, we have a policy framework in place. We have regulations, we have laws, we have put up different plans and strategies to achieve. And before I go to specifically give my answer on yes, it's effective or not, I'll just try to enumerate and give you where we are today. So in terms of employment, where we are in the sector today, we have about 16,000 people employed, and out of those, 90% are Ugandans. This has not come naturally. It has come as a result of a strong backup from the existing legal framework. It has come through efforts to monitor and evaluate the different, work programs of these companies, employment plans, recruitment plans, and as such, we've been able to see an increase in the number of Ugandans employed, and we talk about 90% in number out of the 16,000, and we are happy to note that over time, the quality of the employment has grown. In the past, Ugandans used to supply to provide employment in the very basic administrative roles, But where we are today in terms of employment, we have seen Ugandans at supervisory level, taking up management of the different, technical roles. So I would say in terms of employment, there's been a very big achievement. We've progressed a lot as a country, even before we see the oil drop. In terms of goods and services, again, I would say that if we look at the exploration phase, the time when we started looking for oil, we found oil, we announced commercial reserves of oil in the country, and we started the appraisal. During that time, we had an investment of 3.5 billion US dollars invested in the Ugandan economy to support drilling and, announcement that indeed we have oil that we can put to the market. And out of the 3.5 billion, we were able to retain 26% as a country. That is through procurement, Ugandan companies coming on board to provide services in different segments. Now, the period after we made the final investment decision, when we completed the appraisals, they did all the necessary studies to make sure that we progress the sector to the next level, and we made the final investment decision. We've had an investment of up to 5.3 billion US dollars, and out of that, 29% has gone to Ugandan companies.
So a definite increase.
That is quite significant
Yeah.
if you try to look around the region and the other countries where they started from, and the level of capacity development that was in our country. Because you'll agree with me that we have a lot of engineering firms in the country, a lot of companies providing environment services, but these could not effectively work in the oil and gas sector. They needed to first get this experience. So for us to be able to talk about a 29% value retention out of the $5.3 billion that has been invested since we made the final investment decision until to date is quite something to talk about.
That's a great achievement.
And in terms of capacity building, again, we've had different programs. First of all, we recognize the input, the commitment of our partners, Sinok Uganda Limited, Total Energies, ECOP, and the partners, the private sector in Uganda. They've been very supportive in capacity building. We've seen more than 200 Ugandan officials trained at professional level in different universities in the UK, in the US, in the Norway, across the globe, trying to get the competences, the skills, the extra knowledge required to play in the oil and gas sector. And for the general public, the training of the technicians, welders, scaffolders, electricians, the mechanics, all those people that support the activities. We've had close to 6,000 Ugandans being trained to support this work. Then the other facet is on technology transfer, where we've seen joint ventures come up between Ugandan companies and foreign companies. These have also been very key to support acquisition of knowledge, the technology that is relevant to the industry, and gradually this has helped Ugandans to further participate. So to respond to your question on how effective the policy has been, I would say the policy framework on national participation in Uganda has been 100% effective.
I agree with you. I agree with you there, because most times we have good policies but a lack of implementation.
Sure.
Making you have a good system but it is not working and it's not reflected on ground. But from what we're hearing, it is being reflected on ground, and this is just the beginning. Because companies are going to be expanding so that they can cater to the needs of the IOCs.
Sure.
And what you've said with the increase from 26 to 29%, it's showing there has been improvement. However, I'm sure not all companies or professionals are getting access to these services. So what do you think are the challenges that Ugandan companies right now are facing to be competitive in this sector, to be able to tap into all the opportunities and all the resources available to a Ugandan company that wants to join the oil and gas sector? What should they do and what challenges are they facing currently?
I think the challenges can be categorized into two. The first and foremost is the technical capacity to supply.
Yes,
the oil and gas sector, as
field.
we know, is an international business. It requires international certification and accreditation. Sometimes when we say this, people misunderstand it to say, oh, we've taken it so high. What is international standard? How certified is this? This sector is very sensitive. A very small mistake in the sector can cause a very big, billions of loss in terms of money, but also in terms of people, life. So the oil and gas sector is very highly specialized. So Ugandan companies over time, they have actually done so well. I'm very proud of Ugandan companies because they have taken time to understand the sector. They have gone out there, they have learned, they have built capacity, they have gone into collaborations to ensure that not small indeed, but the aspects that are required, the extra requirements in the sector, they have been able to come together with global suppliers that are experienced, and they have been able to supply. But the major aspect still remains the technical competence required. So many engineering firms, but they cannot deliver effectively on oil and gas, even as much as they have done a lot of engineering work in the country. So those that have gone in, they have really struggled to get to understand these technical requirements, but it still remains a big gap. The other one, which is also very key, is financing. Oil and gas is capital intensive. You must have the money. A small catering contract, for example, is like $100 million US. You have done the catering and what? At one point, we were thinking of, for example, a hotel like Serena here, where we are now. They have done a lot of catering. They have done a lot of, these engagements and what. But have they secured a contract worth $1 million US before? Do they have the capacity to deliver on such a contract? And I am talking catering because that is very basic. But now when you go from that, you're talking about civil works, the equipment that is required. So financing is a very big challenge for now, but we have a lot of hope in the establishment of the National Content Fund that we think is going to provide this financing to help our people get the money required to deliver on these contracts. But we are also very proud and happy, and we applaud the commitment and the work done by the different financing institutions in the country, Stanbic Bank, DFCU, Equity, I cannot exhaust the list. But they have put up different packages to support Ugandans to deal with that problem. So those have been the two major challenges: financing and the capacity required to supply the industry.
Okay. In the terms of financing, I also know, since you've mentioned the National Content Fund, what of the Uganda Development Bank? Does it play a role? Because it's, as a development bank, it's supposed to support the people with such projects, as you've said, capital-intensive projects. So is it supporting, because it is sort of a government bank?
Yes, our understanding is that, we've had some suppliers that have come to us and said they're engaging in discussions with the Uganda Development Bank to see how they can secure financing that is affordable, and that discussion is ongoing. We hope that as we complete the paperwork, the documentation towards the establishment of the fund, Uganda Development Bank is one of the institutions that we'll be talking to see how to even anchor this and institutionalize it and have it implemented as part of the fund.
That's good. That's good to know. And for the first one you mentioned, it's a technical know-how. There have been, not complaints, but let me say grievances that they're asking for too much, we're just local. And to that I'd say it's important for us to push ourselves, and try as much as possible for us to make sure we match the standards. Because it not only opens up opportunity here at home, but also outside the country. If I want to work in areas in Africa, I am free to do so because I've reached the international standard. So I like what you said, we have to raise ourselves up to match that. And to my next question, to what aspect, or do you have any clue as to the collaboration between local companies and international companies for that skills gap to be bridged, or for sort of benchmarking? Are you seeing any form of collaboration between the two?
Yes, there's been a lot of collaboration. We established, the Petroleum Authority of Uganda established the National Supplier Database, where all suppliers in the industry are expected to register. Short of that, you don't supply the industry. So this has been very key in supporting our companies highlight or understand the suppliers in their space. The engineering firms have been able to see who is supplying, the caterers, the environmentalists, and all these. They have been able to know who the suppliers, the global suppliers that have experience in their space. And as a result, they have come together to collaborate. The Petroleum Authority of Uganda, in addition to the other activities, they review and approve joint ventures between Ugandan companies and foreign firms. So where we are today, we have more than 35 joint ventures that we have approved and are active in the sector. And in terms of the financing that these joint ventures have acquired, they have, I think, supplied services that contracts that are more than $19 million US. The contracts that have gone to these JVs. And they have actually been very helpful because we are seeing Ugandan companies pick up. There is a very technical field which they call, detailed engineering. That is after we agree that this is what is going to be done. The sector requires that they undertake a technical description of exactly what is going to be done. That is an area that requires, technical capacity, but we have Ugandan engineering firms that have gone into joint ventures and they have participated in these services. So the aspect of knowledge transfer through joint ventures has really achieved results, and we continue to encourage Ugandans to collaborate, to build these strategic relations, and we want these relationships that are actually going to build value.
Yes.
We do not, Petroleum Authority of Uganda will not approve a joint venture between an engineering firm and, say, a catering firm.
No.
We don't think that's a joint venture because there is no knowledge transfer in any way.
So you also look keenly at these ventures that are coming to you and make sure they are aligned.
That is the review that we do before we approve, because there is a difference between a joint venture, a partner you're working with, and a subcontractor who is offering a certain service. And those are some of the elements we look at when we are reviewing this joint venture. But clearly, these have been very helpful, and we have a number of Ugandan companies that can testify to this.
This is great because you can look at it as a stepping stone, This joint venture would be a stepping stone to build the company up so that next time it could handle this on its own.
Exactly.
I love that. So you're here with the Chamber of Energy and Minerals. Yes. Our main mandate as a chamber is policy advocacy and pushing for growth in the private sector.
Sure.
So how do you think we should best collaborate as a regulator and us as private sector? How can we best collaborate to ensure that the national content policy first is being implemented, and also our members who are supposed to do this implementation are doing what needs to be done?
Well, for me, first of all, to mention, I've known the chamber for as long as I've been in the petroleum industry, since 2012. And I have known you for the advocacy that you do around, participation in the oil and gas sector. I think you took the center stage on getting Ugandans, especially your members, the companies, your members, to participate in this. And I think there's been a lot of progress, and we are very proud of the chamber in terms of bringing on board the different companies, the suppliers, to appreciate the needs of the oil and gas industry and respond the same way. Now, what do we need to do better, or what are those aspects that we need to take into consideration? I think the talk should not end. The talk should not end. We need to continue pushing through this information. We have been, I'm saying we have been because I know we have a few, maybe months, if not months, to end the development phase. But what is coming ahead for the production phase needs to be contextualized and communicated. And the chamber is well positioned to bring together these members and communicate this. So we need to continue the communication to point out. I also know previously the Chamber of Mines, I think, secured a grant from either GIZ or one of our funders to undertake, training of, our people. I know you selected some from the National Oil and Gas Talent Register, and they have given testimonies. We need to continue that. Identification of the challenges, and then we speak to these. We liaise with the different donor agencies to get the financing. I know financing is normally the problem, so that we can implement some of these aspects.
Yes.
And I'm sure by now, from my perspective, the confidence is built. The commitment would be easily secured. I've seen Enabel as one of the sponsors, partners, but also exhibiting today. They have a lot of opportunities for skilling. So if we can take forward the different recommendations. For example, we are in this conference, so many aspects are going to come through. We need to take forward those discussions.
Yes.
We've had the chamber has taken the sectoral discussions. There was one on insurance, there was one on taxation, I think there was one for the logistics providers.
Yes.
We need to continue that way. We do the global, but also we do the centralized. For example, logistics, what exactly do we need to do? And then as PAU, we are always available to collaborate We can bring on board industry depending on the subject that is being discussed, and that way we can see value. We can continue to see value and how useful some of these collaborations are.
Well, thank you for that. I have taken note. So the ball is now in our court.
Sure.
To participate and collaborate. Before we close off this session, Madam Betty, I'd like to ask you one last question. If you weren't the manager of the national content in PAU, what would you be doing?
Well, interesting question. I'm an economist.
Yes. Okay.
I'm an economist. I did a lot of strategic planning and management, and I've always looked at myself as a policy advisor, advocacy, policy formulation, and I think I would be very comfortable in such a space, trying to develop policy that is informed by the people through participatory processes, identify a problem, like now we have a problem on financing in the sector. How do we develop frameworks that can support? Because there's two things. One, implementation requires support from a policy, from what we've come to understand.
Yes, we need a robust policy.
Yes, today, if you want to reduce the cost of financing in Uganda, it is going to be very hard because you do not have a backup policy framework to say that this is how we are going to go about this. So if I weren't in this position, I think I would be advocating for policy formulation.
Are we seeing a legislator soon? Will you run for office one of these days?
Not
Join
at all.
Parliament and make the laws, change the policy from inside.
Not at all. I prefer staying on the technical side of things. Yes.
Well, I would definitely vote for you. Thank you so much for joining us on this session.
Thank you very much.
Uganda Chamber of Energy and Minerals, for a sustainable future.